Hey y'all, I'm back with another video. This time I am about to remove the plants from my hydroponic system and place them in some pots. So you guys could see the growth here. Again, this was my very first time going and using a hydroponic system and actually gardening at all. And so you'll see me refer to the instructions a lot and just kind of take my time with this planting. I use the the soil pods from the herb garden box. You can check my video out when I unbox all of the contents and everything from there on the channel as well. You see how fast they soaked up the water? I didn't know if that was normal, and so I had to recheck the instructions. And then I added some more water. You saw briefly my other phone is where most of my videos were. I've lost that phone since, and so I'm using old videos from another phone that I actually took some captures from. So yeah, adding some more water to the soil disc that came along with this hydro garden box. And again, this was my first time doing it, and I actually like those soil packets. They were so much easier to use. You know, I did end up, you'll see me soon mixing some pot and mix with it as well. Um, but just breaking up the soil disc for my first pots. The instructions, if I remember correctly, I'm doing this voiceover later as well. It's probably about a year. This was done a year ago. And so the instructions were saying to add water and to make the soil damp, but not soaking wet. And so I was just adding just a little water as I went along. And I was excited to use my little tools. I think now I do it just with my hands. So you can see me just kind of making sure it's not soaking wet, but the soil was damp enough. In another video, I'll also show the growth from these plants after I transplanted them into soil from the hydroponic system. A few of them, most of them actually died. I think one red chard is still living from the one that I planted last year. So if you watch my other videos and all of those seeds I soaked and planted and all of that good stuff, yeah, I walked away with only one surviving after the transplant. And in my experience, I also noticed that as well. Each time I transplant, I lose some. And so after each time, I plant at least two seeds just in case one of them don't last. But here you see me putting some pot and mix along with the soil with the box. And so, yeah, just making sure all of that is mixed in good enough. Still checking for dampness, making sure still the soil is still damp. So again, these were the containers and the pots that I received from the herb garden box. That was my tomato. The tomatoes grew so tall and the roots are so thick. That's why even now I use my hydroponic system as a starter, and then I end up transplanting all of the plants just because the roots to each of the plants can grow very thick, and that water gets all murky and nasty looking. And so I don't like for them to sit and grow through the hydroponic system. Although I believe, a lot of people use it to just, you can keep the plants or the vegetables or whatever it is that you're growing, you can keep them in there and just continue to change the water and feed it with the liquid plant food you get. A lot of the videos, their plants were old, and not old, but they remained in the hydroponic system. But mine is so small and just a kitchen countertop that I decided after this first planting, I decided to just use it as a starting, and definitely wanted to increase my knowledge and experience around actual gardening and planting in soil. And so I just used my system to start the growth of the seeds. And so you see me here just kind of making room for the sponges to go in. And yeah, I think I started out with like 3 tomatoes. See those roots? They all connect and start to intertwine with one another under the lid of the hydroponics. I was able to pull out some of the shorter plants that had little, see that? They're like tugging. I was trying to tug on them, trying to loose it up to see which one would just kind of come on out. And I started to just take out the ones that were where the roots were easy enough for me to just pull them out. Wanted to get those out of the way before I tore the roots for the larger tomatoes. So yeah, each one of those sponges that I'm pulling out, none of those plants are still alive on today. Crazy, ain't it? But also in my research, I did read a lot where you have to be careful with transplanting because it's a different environment. They're used to growing in just water, so they have to kind of get used to the soil and fend for the food and things like that. And so you're going to get some loss when you're transplanting. I heard that was normal. And I'm still in the beginning stages of learning how to recognize and grow each herb. And so just growing as I go. I thought I ended up just cutting them, but I guess I just continued to pull and yank. Mhm. Yeah, finally got one out. See all of that. And then you have to try to kind of untangle them to get them out of that plastic container because I'm not planting the plastic. It's just the sponge. So I still need to be able to pull that sponge out of that plastic container that they're in. So you'll see me kind of struggle. I wasn't really struggling at that point. It was just a process. I was so concerned about messing with the roots so much that they would end up dying. But my tomatoes actually grew well. I just discontinued it because there were a lot of bugs and things that was on my balcony. and I just felt like I wasn't ready to grow the tomatoes yet. And then I stopped eating tomatoes in my diet. And so I just felt like I could wait to grow those some more. But this was one where you see, just a little rut. Planted them in the pot. I also learned that these pots were too little. It's more like pots for seeding, like the stage that I use the hydroponics for, just to kind of start out the seed and see some germination from them. But again, this was my first time I've gotten better pots for the ones that I've done so far or since then. Yep, I took all of those out of the hydroponics and placed them in these little bitty old white pots. They ain't no better. So you see me take the sponge out of the plastic, making sure the roots won't be too tangled inside. You also see some of the roots growing through the sponge. And so, yeah, those sponges are okay to plant. So you just kind of leave them in there and put in the soil. So we snip some of the root out. This is the first one. I just kind of had to loosen up the root to get them to pull through. That was easy enough. Also, my first one, you see me doing this in my kitchen. I have not done that since. Afterwards, my kitchen was so just full of soil and dirt on the counters. I was like, I ain't doing that no more. And so I bought me a little garden bench and put it on my balcony. And since then, after this one, each of my following transplants, I've taken the system to the balcony and just do everything from the balcony. You can see most of them are kind of shallow. I ended up just kind of going back over and adding more dirt. Just wanted to kind of get them all in first. I was so mad at myself after all of this was done with the cleanup. Like, I am not doing this in my kitchen no more. You see me snip some of the roots from that first tomato one. All of that was not going to come through the plastic. I was trying to be as gentle as I could without putting away too much of the root. You're just trying to get them real wet to make the detangling process a little bit easier. Again, this was my first time, so I don't even know if all of that was needed. But since then, I don't allow the plants to get that much root in them anymore. You know, once they start developing a good amount of root, after that, I go ahead and transplant. So I don't have to deal with that process anymore, or this process anymore here. And again, those tomatoes still ended up growing well after the transplanting process. It was those smaller plants that really just kind of gave in and didn't grow anymore, which probably speaks to the root because those had little roots on them. So I definitely ended up repotting these tomato ones once I realized that that pot was not going to support the growth of it. I immediately went out and got a couple of flower pots and repotted those into larger pots. You'll see in some of my future videos. So I just wanted to show the process of me doing just a few of them. Getting toward the end, you see how that was just laying over. I realized those pots were not going to be big, so I don't even think I had two other tomato plants in the system, but from the way that one was slumping, I think I just potted that one in. The next day, I ended up going to Home Depot somewhere and just getting me some pots, a couple pots, and planting the other ones in. So they stayed in the system until I was able to do that. You see me filling the rest of them with some more dirt. And that's the end. If you watched this whole video, thank you so much for staying to the end. And stay tuned for more videos of my gardening journey.